your goals and getting your macros right. Why and how? So this is obviously a really important topic for making sure that you're actually eating the correct amount of nutrients for you. Now this is really important because in modern day, what we've been programmed with is less is better. Therefore, for example, if you want to lose weight or you want to lose fat, then we need to eat less. All right. However, this is inaccurate. What it starts to do by eating less is that you will start to slow your metabolism down, which means that you will actually start to burn more muscle tissue for energy as opposed to fat. And as you slow that metabolism down and as you restore to a normal diet, which you will do anyway because no one can stay on a diet for long, then what you will end up doing is putting more weight back on because your metabolism is lower, and then you're going to eat too much again. So making sure that we understand this, making sure that we get this right is fundamental for you, for your success, and for making sure that you do not get despondent. Okay, so moving forward, why is your goal important, right? So we're looking at two different body composition objectives here. And I want to explain in a little bit more detail about fat loss and muscle gain and what it is that constitutes both. So if we look at fat tissue consists of what we call adipose cells. And their role is, metabolically speaking anyway, to act as an energy store. All right, they have other roles. Fat has other roles within the body, such as in the lining of your skin, such as in the function of your brain and your neurons. But from a metabolical point of view, then it's predominantly used as an energy store. So keep that in mind. Muscle tissue. So muscle tissue is what we call metabolically active tissues. And these are musculoskeletal cells that are there basically to drive movement and metabolism. All right. So if you think of this more as the engine and more as the fat tissue as an energy supply, a surplus energy supply, if you will. So when you're changing your body composition, there is one predominant factor: energy in versus energy out. Okay, we can't get away from this. We can look at things with regards to hormones, we can look at things with regards to energy, we can look at things with regard to illness and everything else as well. However, the one predominant truth that exists above all others is the amount of energy we take in versus the amount of energy we expend. That is going to change your body composition. For fat loss, we want to take less energy in than we put out. Okay, so less energy than we put out. Then we're going to have a deficit, which means that we'll use the energy then for it within the system, which means we'll have a fat reduction. Muscle gain, which means we want to take more energy in than we do expend, which is obviously going to create a surplus, which will allow us to build on top of the body. Now, it is important to understand here, you can only have one objective. You cannot do both at the same time. So in other words, you can't do, I want to lose fat and I want to gain muscle. You can't do that at the same time because you're pulling in two opposite different directions. All right. You can lose fat and maintain muscle, all right, which gives the extra appearance of building size because you reduce the fat tissue that's on the outside and you get more shape and more tone through there. But you're not really going to put more muscle on. Or you can gain muscle while not putting fat on as well. And as you build your metabolism, your body will use more of the fat cells as well. So you've got to understand that you can't pull your body in two different directions. Okay? So moving on from there. So fat loss. What we're looking to do with fat loss is we're looking to create an energy deficit, but no more than 15 to 20%, which I'm going to come on to in a little bit. So, for example, if you require 2,500 calories for the day, right, you'd want to create about a 20%, 15 to 20% surplus on that, or an energy deficit for fat loss, which is 2,000 calories in this example. So 2,500 times by 0.2 equals 500. 2,500 minus 500 equals that 2,000 per day. So here you're creating a 20% energy deficit, which is going to result in fat loss. No more than 15 to 20%, however. Muscle gain. So if you're going to look to create an energy surplus here, all right, because we want to make sure that we're putting surplus into the body so we can build extra onto the body. So if you think of it like that. So with this one, we want to no more than 5 to 10% surplus. So again, coming back to this 2,500 calorie example, plus that extra 10% to create that surplus for muscle gain, you'd be looking at around about 2,700 calories a day in order for the muscle gain. So you really got to understand what your objective is. So number one, work out what you want to do. And number two, find out the amount of macronutrients you need for you, all right? Specifically for you. So in order to do that, we need to work out what we call your TDEE. So this is your total daily energy expenditure, guys. And it consists of 4 parts. The first one is your BMR, or your basal metabolic rate. You'll have all heard of this one before. So your BMR is simply that. It's your basic metabolic rate. It's what you need to be able to, your heart to pump, for your lungs to move up and down, for your eyes to move in your head, for your brain to function, for your cells to do the jobs. This is like baseline. This is if you were lying in bed, okay? So what a lot of guys out there don't understand is they try to eat just to what their BMR is, just to what their basal metabolic rate is. But there's other factors that we need to consider on top of that, such as number 2, which is what we call NEAT. So NEAT is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So in other words, it's not officially exercise, but it's stuff that you would do as you're moving around the house. Or like I'm doing, I'm talking now and I'm moving my hands. It's non-exercise activity thermogenesis, but I'm still moving. I'm not exercising, but I'm still moving. So I'm still using energy, which means I'm still using calories. Then number 3, we've got your TEA. That's your exercise thermogenesis, okay? So, or exercise thermogenesis activity. So this is the stuff that you actually do in terms of your exercise. So when you come to do your sessions in the gym, or when you do your sessions in the studio, it's all to do with the exercise thermogenesis. Now, exercise thermogenesis and NEAT play a small role in terms of the amount of the whole energy that you use throughout the day, but we still need to consider it. And then the other thing is your TEF, which is the thermogenic effect of food. So when you eat food, your body has to go through a process of digestion and then redistribution of those nutrients out into the cells and through the bloodstream. So there's obviously an energetic process because it takes energy in order to do this. So that's why we need to consider the 3 factors, not just your basic metabolic rate, but also to be able to consider what you're doing when you're not exercising. Can add in your exercise. Now, a lot of guys only just consider the amount of calories they burn in a day through the exercise sessions that they do, which is obviously inaccurate, and also the thermogenic effect of food. So these 4 factors come together, and from there you'll work out your total daily energy expenditure, which is the total calories you require for the day. Now, we must know our objective, whether it's going to be fat loss or muscle gain, and your TDEE to work out your macro requirements. So in order to find your TDEE, the easiest way is to use a website that has a pre-existing TDEE calculator. And I've put some example sites that you can actually go to and use here. So I'm just going to flick over to one on here so you can actually see it. I'm just going to bring that up for the full screen. So all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put my age in. I'm going to put my weight in. I'm going to put my height in. My activity level here, I'm going to put moderate exercise, okay, because I exercise between 3 to 5 days a week. I do 3 days full body training, and then the other 2 days I do mobility or walking. I'm going to put that in. I don't know my body fat percentage. Now, for the most of you won't be able to get your body fat percentage unless you do a thing called a DEXA scan, which is a DEXA, which I don't think there's one on the coast. But you may be able to find one that you're happy to go and do. Normally they're in labs, the DEXA scan, or you need to be able to do a caliper test, which is when we do the fat pinching, okay, on the body in 5 to 7 different sites, so we can then work out the calculation. That needs to be done by a professional, either a physiotherapist, a physical therapist, or an exercise physiologist. For most of us, we're not going to have that. So for this example, we're not going to put the body fat percentage in, but I'm just going to calculate here what my TDE is. So here, see, I'm coming through. It's giving me moderate exercise. It's saying that I need my TDEE in order to stay exactly the way I am is 2,631. And then it gives me some other indications here, moderate exercise. Now, important to notice, if my exercise was to change and I was to go to light exercise, or I would know it was going to be sedentary for a period of time, for example, if I was going on holiday, then obviously I would look at my amount of calories that I would require for that day. It gives me my ideal weight, my BMI score as well. And it starts to give me some information down here as well about in terms of grammage. But don't worry about that for right at this minute in time, because it's basing that on this and not on what you want to achieve. So this is for maintenance, all right, just to make this clear. So I'm just going to come out of here and I'm going to come back to our presentation. So what I would recommend with this, top tips, these calculators can vary due to you adding your fat percentage. So to be safe, what I would recommend is you minus 10% off whatever you get from the calculator. Okay, so take 10% off that total and then take that total then as your TDEE. Remember that they're only an estimate. Your body is your own best yardstick with this, all right? So make sure that you take your stats down, you do your measurements, you do your photos, because then you will start to see the changes that your regular dietary plan is having on your body composition, dependent on what your goal is. And also, don't forget to use things like the way that you're feeling, the way that your clothes fit as well. These are all really good indicators of whether you're progressing along the lines that you want to, or whether we need to make modifications. And be accurate with the information that you provide. Don't guess, all right? Try and be as accurate as you can. And then when you get to certain circumstances, like you're eating out, or you've got an example where you go into a party, just be aware of what's going on and then just try and estimate that to the best that you can. But the rest of the time, don't guess. So what to do now that you have your TDEE? Now that you have your TDEE, you can now know your objective and you can now work out your total calorie intake. So remember, for fat loss, we want a 15 to 20% deficit, no more. Or for muscle gain, we want a 5 to 10% surplus, no more. Okay? So why am I making the exaggeration of no more? Now at the bottom I've put down, you can see as a warning, you can't cheat this. Eating a greater calorie deficit will result in you having more muscle wastage and a lower metabolism, which ultimately was going to give you greater fat stores, mood swings, and a lack of energy and motivation. Okay? Eating more than your surplus will result in muscular growth, but also increased fat stores. So you're not going to be able to see that muscular growth in terms of the definition and the tone that you want to get from it as well. Now, that's why it's important not to exceed this. Less is not better. More is not better. Accurate is best, okay? So make sure that we get this right, guys. So macro objectives. Hit within 5% of your calorie goal, dependent on what your goal is. So whether it's fat loss or whether it's muscle gain, make sure you hit within 5% of what that TDE score is that you've put in there after you've taken the 10% off, just for that, because you can't add your fat percentages in. Hit your protein requirement. Regardless of your goal, maintaining or growing your muscle mass is essential to sustaining your metabolism, okay? So your protein requirement is 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. So as an example of that here, I've said as a 78 kilo man times by 1.5 grams that I need to hit 117 grams of protein per day. So I've worked my TDE out. I went to the calculator. I know that it was 2,600 approximately. I took 10% of that off. All right. So I know for me that I want to hit in and around about that 2,200 calories mark per day. That's going to give me a 15 to 20% surplus, and that's going to make sure that I can hit my targets regularly. So I'm going to focus on hitting that first. My second priority is to make sure to get 117 grams of protein in per day. Okay, the reason why I want to do that is because even though I want to lose fat and I want to trim, I want to be able to maintain my muscle mass. And if I'm maintaining my protein intake, it means I'm going to maintain my muscle mass whilst I'm losing the fat away. I won't grow the muscle necessarily, but I'll certainly maintain it, and I'll look really good once I've actually shredded away the fat that I want to get rid of. The rest of the calorie requirements, so the rest of it, whatever's made up, can either be made up out of fat and carb. Your body doesn't really mind that much, you know. Remember back to the energy in, energy out, okay? That's the first thing more than anything else. The constitution comes next. So you've got your calories, your energy in, energy out, depending on what you want to do. Make sure you hit within 5% of that. Then on top of that, you've got your protein goal. Make sure you hit that as a second priority. The rest between fat and carb can be made up as you prefer, all right? So in summary, decide your goal, whether it's going to be fat loss or muscle gain. You can't have both. Let's get clear on that. Work out your TDEE, okay? Once you've worked out your TDEE, minus 15 to 20% off that for fat loss, or 5 to 10% a surplus for muscle gain. Hit within 5% of your calorie target. Hit your protein goal to maintain your metabolism, as I've put above here. And be honest and let your own body and the way you feel be your barometer. Guys, if we need to adjust this as we go through, we adjust it as we go through. We do what works for you, but this is going to give you the foundations to make sure that you're getting your nutrition right. Okay, thanks, gentlemen.